We are in the space again.
Yes, indeed. And Leah, I am just inviting you. Yes, now you're also a co-host. Leah, can you hear us well?
Yes, hi.
Hi, Leah. Thanks for joining us.
Hi.
So here's where we make interesting small talk whilst everyone joins us.
Oh, God.
Every day you've got to come up with something interesting. So.
The weather.
The weather. See, this you can be English. Honorary English is our classic standpoint. The weather is always the best subject. And I have to say, frankly, it sucks. This is no one's idea of spring. This is freezing.
No.
Is it as bad where you are, Leah? You're in Austria, right?
It was really bad. Like last Saturday, we had snow storms. Today is nice. But I'm not outside because I have to be in here.
So now I feel really guilty.
No,
Today's
fine.
nice, but frankly, I'm sacrificing it all for you.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Oh, God. This is exciting. It's my third time only that I'm on a Twitter space.
Yeah, I must admit, I've really enjoyed this. It's kind of my perfect forum because I can be entirely scruffy and unkempt, as I often am, because there's no camera. At the same time, it still sounds like you're completely on the ball just because you're talking online. So it's great. Perfect for me.
So if I make weird noises, just let me know because I'm not very used to my headphones. So sometimes it's tangling on my zipper or something. So if it's annoying, then please let me know.
No problem. If I make weird noises, you just have to live with it.
Okay. I'll try to sit still for 3 hours. Oh, it's fine.
I promise we won't.
Let's not say this is going to last 3 hours, otherwise everyone is leaving. So don't worry, guys. We are not going to be going live for 3 hours. No, that's not our plan. We're not going to be torturing you the whole evening.
If you've got that many questions, I'm leaving now.
But yeah, let's wait a couple more minutes to let everybody join, as we were advertising that we are starting at sharp 4 o'clock BST, and now it is just 4 o'clock, so let's give people a moment to join, and then we'll be getting started in a couple of minutes.
So Vlad is the host here, is currently in Finland. I myself am sitting in a corner of southeast England. Leah, I believe you are in Austria?
Yes, in Vienna.
In Vienna. That's a pretty good world coverage we've got right there. And I can already see from one or two of our listeners, we had Gopal Kumar here a moment ago, who I know is based in India. So we've got a pretty good global coverage on this already. Bolim has joined us. Hi, Bolim. Good to see you.
All right, guys, let's get started. Let's get started step by step. And I'm sure more people will be joining us soon as we are going. So, hi everyone, and welcome to this AMA. We have a very special guest today, Leah. And Leah, why don't you start by introducing yourself?
Yeah, well, so I am doing generative art for 26 years, I think. I started in 1995, and yeah, I'm old. That means I'm old. And I did not have, I didn't go to art school or anything. I went to music school. I always wanted to do something with music, actually. But then I figured out I'm not good enough at the instruments I was playing. And so then I went to a fashion school for 2 years, and I thought fashion school until I figured out it's not so much. Well, and then I did a lot of different things, different jobs, I tried a lot of things. And then I got my first computer, and that was it. And I got obsessed, and yeah. Yeah. So I got a computer, and my first job was to cut pictures for a CD-ROM. like type some names of plants for a CD-ROM about plants, about healing plants and herbs. And I delivered that on a disk to the office who programmed the CD-ROM. And there I saw the guy programming with Lingo. The language was called Lingo in Macromedia Director, later Adobe Director, and now Date Director. And I was obsessed because I thought like, okay, this guy sitting there makes something move on the screen. And I wanted to do the same. So basically I copied the handbook, several hundred pages. I copied by hand twice because I really wanted to know what a handler is, which was the name for a function back then, or in Lingo. And yeah, that's how it started.
All right. Thank you, Leah, for a quick background. That definitely is an interesting one. And Rory, would you like to introduce yourself and introduce Sedition?
Of course, I'll keep this fairly brief since I'm the regular member of the AMAs. Rather like Leah, actually, I come from an arts background, but perhaps a slightly different path than what you might consider the norm. I also didn't go through the traditional art schools and what have you. I started my life out as a performing artist. I was a dancer originally, the original Twinkle Toes, ballet tights and tutus and the entire bit. And no, I won't be showing you any pictures of that. And obviously from there I segued into working full-time in the fine arts or the visual arts. My brother Harry had founded a contemporary art gallery. I began working there on weekends and eventually began a full-time career as an art dealer. So I've always been involved in the arts in one form or another, as I said, albeit from a slightly different path to the normal. Sedition was founded back in 2011. We set up very much before NFTs and a lot of what's happening on the landscape that you see now. All this was before that was actually possible. Sedition invented its own version of NFTs, really, although ours were by necessity a centralized setup rather than a decentralized setup. Since then, we've grown rather exponentially. There's more than 1,000 artists on the platform. There's more than 1 million artworks on the site. We've got 107,000 individuals as signed up active members. And our actual audience online through emails and social media and so on, and our newsletters is quite a bit wider than that. So it's growing dramatically, but obviously the landscape has been changing very fast around us, and we're moving to make the most of the newest technology and the things that have become most aligned with everything that we're delivering. So we'll be telling you a lot more about this. We're actually doing some events to talk about our entry into the NFT space. But we're not just about NFTs. We are, above all, a portal to dive into the art world. If you want to find out about contemporary art, a particular artist, events they're doing in the physical world, the stuff they're doing online, NFTs, virtual things, all of this can be accessed through the Sedition site. So that's always the game plan. From the last 10 years, we've added several different things onto the site. You get there and you get B2C sales of editions, the actual artworks we sell. You can also be a subscriber, so a small access fee gives you everything there. On top of that, we're adding NFTs, which will be coming on this summer. And if you're a corporation or a commercial entity and you want to use the artworks, this can be done too. But you have to come to us and buy a PDL, a public display license. So the idea is really whatever your art needs, whether it's an artist or an art lover, Sedition should be able to provide you access, all at a very low and affordable fee. That's the game plan. That's the vision that stands behind Sedition.
Awesome. Thanks, Rory, for the introduction. And now, before we move forward and I start asking Leah some questions about her practice, I would just love to let everyone know that we like to make this as interactive experience as possible. So if you have any questions for Leah or if you have any questions for Rory, just request a microphone and you will get an opportunity to ask questions live. So don't be shy and request to speak. But you don't have to do it right now, of course, because, maybe you'll get some questions later. But yeah, with that out of the way, and that is something I'll be repeating and forcing you guys to engage with us. Leah, would you like to tell us a bit about your artwork?
My artworks in general, you mean?
Yes, exactly.
Yes. So I'm doing abstract art because I like doing that because I think it makes people think or trigger things in the brains of people. Because like if I would, let's say how to put that, if I would paint a tree, then people would see a tree and that's it. But if I program something that behaves like a tree or acts like a tree or has the principle of a tree, then it could have like many different outputs. And I could also just do something that might eventually become a tree or something. So there's a lot more going on when you when using generative art or abstract art. I think I'd like to believe that people can see in my artworks whatever they want to see, and it's not that I'm telling them what they see or what they have to see or what they should see. It's a bit of an anarchist aspect, I think, because I always hated going to a gallery and then you have a DIN A4 paper next to the piece of art and it tells you exactly what you should see and how you should feel and all these things and what it is all about. And I think I like more to present something and leave the rest to the viewer. And I have already a collection of really nice comments about my artworks, which were completely surprising to me, because when I made a piece of art, I didn't intend to make angel wings or intend to make certain things, but people told me, oh, this looks like this or this looks like that. And that's what I really like about it, so that everyone can make up their own mind and use basically my art to get inspired or to dream about things and to have their own brain work it out, what it might be.
Leah, would you mind if I jump in and interrupt? I'm going to abuse my position shamelessly to ask the question that I want to ask. I've always loved your work. I'm a big collector of your work on the site. And one of the things that's always fascinated me, actually, is where do you get your titles? Because that's something that I really love about your work.
I think long and hard about it. The titles. It's kind of I had to come up with titles at some point, because my very, very early works were called like GSILX30 or something, because that was like some of the titles were like working numbers, because if you're working abstract, then sometimes it doesn't the title gives an abstract piece already a meaning, and sometimes sometimes I'm playing around with the titles.
As said, it's Not Even Love Will Tear Us Apart and The Lonely One in the Autumn were
the Lonely One in Autumn actually is the title is actually from the original sound piece where I made visuals for. That's from now either it's Gustav Mahler or it's the other guy. I'm so bad with names, sorry. Hugo Wolf, two composers. I did live visuals for 2 1-hour-long classical music evenings, and that's one of the poems. The title of the poem, So, but in this case, the inspiration for The Lonely One in Autumn was also like the text of the poem. People now don't see what the piece is all about, how it looks like, but it's like I saw the lake and the fog on the lake and the grass that comes out of the frozen lake and this autumn mood, basically,
Got it. It is very evocative. It's one of the reasons I love that title.
Great, thank you for the insights. And I am very happy to say that I think we have the first person of the evening or of the afternoon, depends where you are, requesting to speak. So go ahead.
Hello, do you listen to me?
Yes.
Hi.
Yeah. Hi. Well, my name is Roberto. I'm a graphic designer from Mexico, living in Austria, and I just want to say I'm very excited about this session, because I was in the time when I was a student, I used to follow the work of LIA before I knew she was Austrian and before I knew generative art will happen and NFTs and so on. But I don't know, I think I discovered her work in the time where Director, this program, and Flash was the technology were so artists and designers, this crossover in these fields, were exploring to do something, as Leah just mentioned, just something alive in the net. And it's really funny that Leah named herself like she's old in this field. Well, I can consider myself old, also like an old or like an old school trained graphic designer. I'm 42 years old, and definitely in the time I was learning, computer was starting, and it was just kind of analog work was very important too. But what I wanted to say is, I consider the work Leo was doing at that time. Uh, I think, if I remember well, she used to have a portal. It was called Remove or something like that. I was also very intrigued by the names, but definitely it was kind of a reference for me of inspiration in a poetic visual way. And I think that work until now it has stay in my, I don't know, in my memories, and I feel it if I remember those pieces. And I mean, I don't want to compare these works with the actual works are existing in the NFT world, but I consider them very contemporary. In that time, for me, were kind of a really alternative scene, very inspirational and very experimental. But I think they hadn't got old through this time. I consider them like kind of references of what's happening now. And I don't know, I'm very happy that you, Leah, continue doing your work and had evolved in different ways with the technology. But I am also happy that this thing you discovered on that time in the 90s or 2000 also existed. Because yeah, I think that the work I'm doing now as a designer, or as the work I intend as an artist, it's also very inspired for that movement that I discover myself uh, just as an alternative for my traditional formation as a graphic designer. So I just want to say greetings to everyone, and yeah, it's a pleasure to listen to you in this session, and I wish you all the best for the present and the future, and very, very grateful for the past work you have.
Thank you so much. So you're in Vienna too, or?
Yes, I live in Salzburg, not in Vienna,
Okay.
but I live in Salzburg. I love Vienna. I live in Salzburg for 10 years now, more or less, and sporadically I go back to Mexico. But I'm based now here, and yeah, the land has changed also my vision of art and design, and influenced my culture too, as a, I don't know, as a Mexican
Yeah,
out of my
I think
country.
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your kind words. And yeah, for those who don't know my old project, Remove, it's actually still online because Rhizome made it happen. So it was originally programmed with Lingo and with Director, and you needed a Shockwave plugin. And then all of that died. Nothing was online anymore. And then Rhizome, they made a, what's it called, an emulator.
Mm-hmm.
And now you can actually play around with it again. But it's funny because it's never the same experience than in 1997, because all your screens are huge. And when you see that thing in 640 by 480, then it will just be a tiny, tiny thing on your screen. And in 1997, it was filling your screen, and you actually could see every single pixel. And yeah, it's kind of funny because like the technology kind of also shaped the artworks that I was doing, because it was very slow, everything. So you had to be aware of of saving energy, kind of. And yeah.
I think I should just jump in here and put down a caveat, or in fact a hard law, that we cannot be referring to anybody here as old. Okay, I'm hitting my 50th birthday tomorrow, guys. Roberto, you are 42 years old. There's no old. I'm trying to persuade people that I'm young.
Roberto is a baby.
Exactly, you're a spring chicken.
Well, that's also really inspirational too. It's great to hear. But yeah, of course, what Leah is saying, it's true. I mean, I remember that work at that time, just filling my screen. I haven't seen it or rechecked. I was not aware it was alive due to this platform reason. But yeah, I mean, I can imagine. I haven't been aware of yeah, how fast had the technology changed our way we display art and we see it. But of course, it's like resolution. It's a very important thing. But I think I was just meaning the essence of the work. It was kind of this pixel art, this the movement. I remember also the compositions are. It's something I also I used to see these days in the NFT world, but in a different resolution. It was just I think I was referring to the core of the creations. But yeah, yeah, that was.
Actually, I think that's one of the most fascinating things for me about Leah's practice. As Leah has just stated herself, I mean, she started in 1995. That is so very much at the beginning of when what she's doing is even possible. That it's been completely dictated by the evolution of technology alongside it. I mean, Leah was just saying that a lot of the abilities of the technology lent some direction to the artworks that were being created. And I can completely identify with that because we had the idea to form Sedition as a company quite a few years before we did it. 2011 is when we founded the company. But the idea for Sedition was around long before that. We couldn't produce it because the two things that made it possible were internet bandwidth, the ability to deliver large files online, and screen resolution, the ability for artists' works to be displayed in a way that they were happy with. It took quite a long time for those things to get to a point where that was possible. So I can well imagine what restrictions you must have been working with at first, Leah.
Yeah, quite a lot.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because in the beginning I really liked to work a lot in black and white, just because you only had 256 colors, and the chances that you use a lot of them and the picture looks really ugly are quite high. So I decided, okay, let's just use black and white, one color maybe, or two, you know. So that's also, of course, I mean, the last piece that I made is it's at the artsy Artists Who Code is the last exhibition by the Vellum LA gallery.
Okay.
And I made a piece for them which is called I Thought I'd Used Up All the Colors. That's another title. Yeah, so this is really, it uses up all the colors. It's random colors, and I could not have done that in like 25 years ago without having it look really, really ugly. Now I can, so now I can use colors, and I do. Yeah.
Cool. This is really actually something I was wanting to ask you, Leah, also about, hardware, software that you use. But I think that is something I will be asking you quite soon, as we have another person who requested a microphone. So, Rado, would you like to go ahead and ask your question?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to take this opportunity to express thanks and share an anecdote. I'm also a young man in my 40s, and I discovered generative art in early 2000s from a book that Leah was on. I think it was called Life, and had like her work and Golan Levin and so on. And at the time I was a science student, and now 20 some years later, I'm now a professor in digital art and I teach art, and it's been very formative. So I just wanted to say thank you. And
thank
recently,
you.
yeah, and just the past in the pandemic too, like I discovered, all the new digital stuff with blockchain, and I came across your work, and I was like, okay, LIA is doing it, so it's okay. So I started doing that as well. So I think your work has been very important in my life, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions. I wonder, actually, I do have a question. I've been following what you guys were doing with endless ways and so on, so I don't know if you want to talk about it, but there's a lot of transformation, so I'm just curious where you're going to go from there.
I can talk about it. I'm over it already. No, it's fine. So yeah, for people who don't know, my husband Damien Stewart and me started our own NFT platform on the Tezos blockchain, and a bit more than half a year ago, I had an NFT project on Art Blocks, and my husband Damien, he just sat next to me, and he helped me actually go through all this onboarding, and then he thought like, hey, I can do that same for Tezos instead of Ethereum, because Tezos is like more environmentally friendly than Ethereum, and so he just sat down and programmed his own platform, our platform. He did all the programming, and he's a programmer. He started when he was 13, I think, with C++, and he's basically, I think he's a genius. But, that's why I married him. But yeah, so half a year ago, we had no idea about European laws. And so we released a test project on Endless Ways. And the idea was to focus on curation. And the idea was that we would curate the curators, and that at some point we could step back and give the platform to the public, basically. And that didn't work out because we had a talk with our lawyers. I'm saying our lawyers. It's a law company in Vienna, and I did some artworks for them in 2013. And one of their bosses is also an artist, and so he did self experiment with NFTs. So I thought, okay, this company knows a lot about NFTs, and that's why we went there. And they basically said, no, you either need a bank license, which costs you 20,000 euros and which will take 8 to 12 months to come through, or you basically make it in a way that you buy the artworks first from the artists and then sell it, so that you're basically just trading. But in the second case, the problem is that you're fully responsible for the content. And in Austria, there are very, very strict laws when it comes to swastikas and Nazi stuff. So because we kind of started some war, so yeah, there are very, very strict laws. So we can't do the second option either, because if some artist is funny and draws a swastika, then we might go to jail for that. So we don't want it either. So A, we don't want to be bankers, and B, we don't want to go to jail for some content that we cannot control. And
you
that's
have
it.
my sympathy there. It's something we're quite used to as a platform for Sedition. We try to essentially provide a platform and not restrict or censor what comes onto the platform. But obviously you have to some extent. And obviously as soon as you have a platform, the regulatory environment that surrounds you can become quite onerous very quickly. So I can completely understand why you wouldn't want to pursue that.
I mean, we still keep it online, and there are still some artworks that can be minted, and the artworks will be available later on still. And Damon is working on some offline renderer, so that if endlessways.net really goes away, that you can still see all the stuff. And so we don't leave our customers hanging, so to say, but we don't see it very, very likely to. Maybe the laws change again in half a year and we can pick it up again. It's like at the moment we just we had a second release with 5 wonderful artists. You can check it out at endlessways.net, and you can still mint them. It's like really great artworks. But at the moment so if we do it once or twice, it might be okay in front of the law. But if we continue doing that, then we would actually make something that is illegal without a bank license. So yeah, like I said, half a year ago we didn't know about what was coming, and everything was a gray area. And yeah,
I'm particularly impressed that Damien managed to build that himself. If he's looking for a job, then we should talk.
He's studying right now since He's studying, I think, English literature.
Oh, he's a man after my own heart. That was my first degree. We've definitely got to talk.
Okay.
So-
Okay. Yeah. He already has some IT degree, something from New Zealand, and now he gets something from the Vienna University.
Flipping overachievers.
Yeah. The problem is we both cannot really go on holidays because we get so bored when we do nothing. It's really
I have the perfect solution for you. I've got loads of work in Sedition that needs to be done. So.
Yeah.
But cool. Thank you, Rory. Thank you, Leah. Thank you guys for asking the questions. If anyone else wants to, then the floor is yours. And in the meantime, we've already touched on this topic a lot, and I think that's always in almost every conversation related to digital art, there's this elephant in the room called NFTs. So let's talk a little bit about NFTs since we already touched on them.
What are NFTs again?
So, Leah, let's start with you, and then Rory, you can jump in. But what's your thought on NFTs? Are you doing NFTs? Well, I think you kind of already mentioned that you guys started a platform, so I think we know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think it's really interesting that the world has come to a point where either you are pro or contra something, and there is very little discussion about things anymore.
Yes.
Like Damien, actually, he was really interested in discussing NFTs and not just being pro or contra. And so he started a Discord, which basically people joined, and then they said, I'm pro or contra, and that was that. And then it died. So it's kind of funny because, like, I think I just, like 2 weeks ago, I talked to someone and I said, well, I made some money. And this person was really surprised. And she told me, wow, it's nice that you as an artist actually made money, because I thought only bankers and people in suits are doing crypto, whatever. And so I think that the public opinion is completely different from what an NFT is or what it can mean. And it's like, it's a bit, if you're asking, are you pro or contra money in general? I would say I like it if I get it, if I can buy stuff, you know. But
few people don't. Yeah.
Yeah, few people don't. And the thing is, I just listened to some discussion about NFTs online about like 3 months ago, and the first thing was like, yeah, NFTs is for money laundering, and NFTs is for, what was it? Yeah, people will get kicked off their apartments if they pay with crypto, if they can't pay quicker or something. Like all evil things were combined with NFTs. And I remember the very first days of the internet where the internet was evil. Yes. I don't know who can remember, but the internet was child pornography and something else. Yeah, that's true. So the internet was evil, and I always think the things like NFTs are neither evil or good. It depends what you do. And yes, I agree that it's not a very good thing to destroy the environment. But like at Art Blocks, for instance, they force everyone to donate 25% to a good cause. So yes, you're destroying the environment indirectly, but you can make up for it. I know it's not perfect, but you can decide
to offset it,
to also help someone, you know. And I recently, there are lots of discussions about NFTs, and recently I listened to someone saying, well, the interesting part is that now the money also gets to artists who will spend it differently. Because if I have money, I don't go out and buy myself a boat or a Gucci bag or I don't know. You know, it's I'm still stitching our socks when they get holes. It's like I didn't change, you know. So it's an interesting question, and I find it fascinating that there is no discussion about what it actually does.
I think I'd echo that completely. The idea of this polarization that's come up, where everyone takes a for or against stance, is really a weird thing in the modern age of discourse, because I completely agree. There's nothing inherently wrong or evil about crypto or NFTs. It's simply what you do with them. Sedition has had the same reservations that you had. We were very, very much in love with the technology. In particular, the idea that an artist can forever and always capture a fair resale value of every secondary market sale of their work from now and in perpetuity, this is what really floats our boat. This set us on fire when it first came up, because this is what we've wanted for Sedition ever since we founded it. The idea is to make sure that there's a lower cost barrier to entry. It's an easier access for everyone. It's more transparent, less secretive. And above all else, if an artist sells a work and that work accrues in value 5 years down, 10 years, 50 years down the line, it sells again for millions, the artist is included for a fair share. That is groundbreaking. That every artist in history should be singing praises to this technology. Yes, it's not
wonderful.
Yes, it's not perfect yet. It doesn't do everything we want it to yet, and the eco impact is our biggest concern. But that's being resolved. There's too much vested interest in resolving it for it not to be resolved. The shift from proof of work to proof of stake is underway. I know that's been mooted for some time. I know it hasn't happened as yet, but we firmly believe it is coming. If it isn't, then we'll simply pivot to a more eco-friendly blockchain down the line. But we definitely believe it is. And above all else, we think this is the go-to technology, not just for now, but for pretty much everything in the future. It's the ideal way of tracking the ownership of a digital asset. It's the ideal way of adding a unique identity to something that might not be a unique object otherwise. But above all else, it's the ideal way for artists to make sure that they can build their audience, get fair revenues, be fairly rewarded, without this idea of all the money just going to suits in banks and the crypto community. It troubles me that perception is out there, because that's very much what I love about NFTs and cryptocurrency and blockchain, is the fact that you can move away from that centralized banks and suits and middle finance area to something that's democratically available to everybody. That is really exciting.
Yes. Yes to all that. Yes. I mean, I'm doing generative digital art for such a long time, and it was always the question, how can I sell it? Because if I put it online, it's free. No one gives me money for that. And I earned before the pandemic. I actually could live from my art, surprisingly. I stopped teaching in 2017. I was teaching processing. I stopped because I couldn't take it anymore, the students. Anyway, but I took the risk because the man said, okay, in the worst case, I help you out, I program and earn a bit more. So I was very fortunate to have that backup, basically. And but interestingly, I could earn enough money because I freed up so much time by not teaching to actually really concentrate on art. And then the pandemic came, and in 2020, I think I made the whole year, I earned 546 euros. And I thought, this is not enough. So, and then I saw basically Damien said, hey, look at the work by Helena Serene. And so I started talking to her, and then there was Super Rare. So I started with Super Rare, and then I didn't sell anything for half a year. And then somehow some collectors from Joshua Davis found me, and that's how it all started, basically. And then Hikken Nunkim was founded in March, and that was also a lot of fun, because it was also the first time that I could put generative art online, interactive art online, and just sell it. It's my dream has come true, my dream that I can sit at home, make my art, and live from it, without having to travel, having to take airplanes, and yeah. I tried to sell a lot of things like prints and filament sculptures, and what else did I do? Plotter drawings, and but it was never the thing. It was never the thing that I actually wanted to do. I wanted to stay digital in a way. If you have prints, then they're piling up in the studio of my husband now. I'm too lazy to sell them now. No, I'm very bad at selling prints, actually. So I'm better at selling NFTs, I think.
I think these are very interesting reflections, and I think definitely it's such a fascinating idea that this technology is out there that allows to actually recapture the fair share of that secondary market value, and of course indeed empowers artists to be able to finance their projects, because we all do need to eat. So that's really a very interesting technology in that way. So I would I would like to invite chrisarb.eth to jump into the discussion, ask your questions, comments.
Thanks very much. Hopefully you can hear me. So I've got a couple of questions. Excuse me while I clear my throat. I've got a couple of questions, both for LIA and for Rory. So thanks very much for taking the time, LIA, to share your experiences with us, and it's been fascinating to hear, your own journey through digital art. I guess my question for you would be what your advice would be to other digital artists who have, maybe been in the digital place but haven't embraced the world of NFTs. And then to Rory, I've got three questions, which is, first of all, or actually maybe this is to you as well, LIA. One of the things I love, and this is as someone who's sort of made the leap into the NFT space, having previously been interested in physical art, I like when the two collide. And so I like when you have artists, for example, like Refik Anadol, but there are others who, through NFT drops, confer the ability to have physical prints via a snapshot date, for example, when they then, owners of the NFT at a certain date would then receive a physical print. I guess both to LIA and to Rory, I wonder if that's something that you could see a future, in your own sort of spheres. And then for Rory, more specifically, we've talked about Discord, and I wonder if you had plans to set up a Sedition Discord. And then finally, if you could just update us on, I guess, the timelines for your own NFT plans at Sedition.
Absolutely. LIA, do you want to take that first and I'll jump in after?
Advice. Yeah. So advice. There is another artist in Vienna, and he basically called me and said, after he saw I'm selling NFTs and I'm making money, and he was like, okay, I want that too. What should I do? And I sat down with him like for 2 hours and gave him advice. And he didn't do a single thing of what I told him. And he was not successful. So the thing is, you really have to work hard. I think with NFTs, the platform to be on is Twitter. And I call it Twitter working. You really have to be on Twitter. And you have to work, and you have to do absolutely shameless self-promotion, which I had to learn the hard way because I was always very shy about my work. And I was like, I don't know if it's good or not. And then when I had this 1 year of 546 euros income, I was like, okay, I have to learn that now because I have to. This was the financial threat, basically. I think I got pretty good at it now. In the meanwhile, I can say, look at my awesome things without any hesitation. So this is what you really have to do. I think it's because of the crypto bro space, I think it's called, like where everyone is bragging about something.
Yes.
You have to do that. If you're not willing to do that, then you will not sell, basically. And right now, I mean, I can give you advice now, but I think the market also has collapsed a little bit. Like in summer last year, you would put out something and it would be gone in a second. And the same people are now putting artworks, and it takes some time. I would say the market has not broken down, but it has kind of normalized, because what happened last year, I think it was pretty hyped. I don't know if this answers your question.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Well, to jump in from my end, Discord, I'll take the easy one first. We are in the process of setting up Discord channel at the moment. In fact, it should be in place next week. Our host here, Vlad, who is kindly comparing this and answering the questions, is actually our community manager. So along with building up our various social media channels, he's also in charge of setting up and launching Discord. And these AMAs and a lot of the events that we're doing now are all very much part of that process, which leads me to the easy segue of our plans for NFTs. Essentially going along with what LIA was saying, we've been looking at this for some time. We have been prepared to step into NFTs and blockchain and all of this technology for quite a long time. The reason we haven't is because we were concerned about some of the pitfalls. Some of it are things like the ecological impact of it. Other things are like the context, for example. We're very careful to curate and place the artists within an art context on the platform. It makes a big difference. If you're looking at something surrounded by the right context, then you view it in that context. Whereas obviously if you're looking at something surrounded by dross, then you'll tend to be more likely to see it as rubbish. So this is something that's very important to us, and our entry into NFTs is happening this year because we feel now that the shift from proof of work to proof of stake is taking place. We have faith in this. The marketplace does most of what we like and what we want to do with it now, including what I was talking about earlier about rewarding the artists fairly. So our intention is to do our first NFTs this summer. June, July, you'll see our first NFTs on the platform. The game plan is then to spend the following year shifting most of the artworks onto a decentralized or blockchain position. And then in the year or so after that, we'll look at doing an airdrop, a token launch, and a few other things as well. Obviously, we'll keep you informed on that timeline as we move towards it. But the idea very much is to shift from everything we have as a centralized ledger at the moment, will eventually go to a decentralized ledger. And actually, to carry on from what Leah was just saying there, what she was describing in terms of the art, the advice to an artist, that piece about being prepared to boast and brag and sell yourself is no small part of it. An art dealer of some 20, 25 years, the reason that artists want representation so much and the reason that gallerists and people like myself are so sought after isn't just because they want a nice sexy gallery to put their work in. It's because as soon as you start working as an artist, you will realize very quickly that selling your work is a full-time job on its own. And if you're doing that, then you won't have time to create work. Believe me, the two are not that compatible. It's one of the advantages of the online world and the system that we're using now is that NFTs and online platforms give artists a lot of tools to present their work to market without having to use up the entire of their time doing it. It's not completely efficient yet, but it does mean that the traditional role of the art dealer has in some ways been, if not subverted, at least augmented. And that's really important for artists coming into market today.
Great, thank you. And may I ask one specific question about the process to move Sedition works onto the blockchain, and that relates to some of that there are some editions, like for example, I own a number of Damien Hirst's works, but there are other artists on Sedition, and I just wonder where those edition sizes. It looks like in a number of cases they were initially envisaged at say 2,000 or 10,000, but actually they've been sales
reduced.
have stopped.
Yes, absolutely.
And my question is, is the idea that the edition size will now be limited to those sold, or will the remaining editions be put on sale?
No, it depends. There's two different things on the site there. In some cases, works have been removed from sale, and all that's left is what was sold from the edition. So there are two artists in particular that you'll see that's happened. Damien Hirst's works, which were initially put on with very, very high editions, like 10,000 or 5,000. Those have been removed now, and what's remaining in the edition is just what is sold. Now, that isn't public information as yet, although it will be when we revamp the site and put the NFTs on. So you'll be able to see exactly how many editions exist. I don't have the numbers to hand in front of me, but for example...
And so no more of those editions will be sold. Is that what you're saying? That there's the full, whatever is sold
will make up the
now.
full edition. Yeah, we'll make sure that information is available. If there's a chance that the works will be added back on, then that will be very, very clear. What will always happen on Sedition is that an artwork will never be devalued. For example, we can cut an edition down. You can change an edition from 10,000 to 5,000, from 5,000 to 500, from 10 to 1. You can always go down in the number of editions if it's unsold, because it increases the value of what has been sold. You can't ever go in the other direction. We can't take a step that would devalue something that an audience member or collector has paid for.
And so specifically with those Damien Hirst pieces in mind, and I just apologies for
That's all right.
sort of slightly sidetracking here, but I've got it's a personal interest. So in those cases, is it the case that no more will be sold, and that those are effectively now reduced from 10,000 to sort of 500 or 700 or whatever the
or however many were sold? Yes, exactly.
Fantastic. Okay.
And the other
I think that
on the site
hugely increases the
value. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, completely it does. Which is why we'll be putting out an announcement about those works and what's actually there existing, as opposed to the initial edition number. There's another artist that's happened for as well. The photographer Wim Wenders has a collection of lots of different works on the site. They were also, because they were stills, they were also initially put on at very, very high editions, which we very rarely do nowadays. Most of the editions that we put out now are 100 or less. Some of the Wim Wenders editions were like 10,000 or so. they've also been removed, and what remains there now is just what was sold from those editions, which in most cases is under 1,000 editions.
Well, that's great. Fantastic. All right. Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris, for your questions. And by the way, since you asked about Discord, I do really hope that we'll be seeing you join our Discord
100%. Yes, very much.
next
I
week.
use Discord a lot, so I look forward to the
Yeah, you realise that's
channel.
obligatory now.
Exactly. So looking forward to seeing you there. And also wanted just to quickly mention that we're actually doing a series of events to build up to our entry to the NFT space. And actually one that we have been a bit announcing is where Rory will be speaking in actually less than a week. It's going to be in Paris. We're doing a Paris NFT day. So if Rory, actually, you want to just quickly mention about that, feel free to tell a bit. We had actually one person joining. We had actually one person trying to speak, but they dropped off. So do please try again to join. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just to mention Paris, it's April the 12th, so next week. It's a one-day event, all about NFTs. We'll be basically making an announcement and announcing to the world exactly what we're telling you here about our plans to enter the NFT space, how we're doing it, why we're doing it, and what we expect out of it, and the sort of roadmap and the timeline for doing so. Obviously, most of you probably won't be in Paris, but don't worry, anything that you missed there, you'll be able to hear here.
All right. So, Asmelash, you were trying to join before and ask something. Do please try to request the mic again if you actually do have some question. And in the meantime, I'd like to throw the next question to LIA. If you would be able to please tell what hardware and software do you use now? And as we've been to create your artworks, of course, and as we've been having interesting conversations about how it's evolved, do feel free to reflect a little bit also what is the software that you've used historically. So.
Yeah, the software, my first one, as I said before, was Macromedia Director is the name of this of the software. It was used to create program CD-ROMs, and the language was called Lingo. That was bought by Adobe, and then they didn't develop it further. It was a wonderful program. There is still an email group of people who are keeping it alive and making like emulations and whatever. It was really a great software, but I basically abused it to create my first art pieces. So it was not meant to create art; it was meant to program CD-ROMs. So then Casey Rees asked me if I would like to do some piece for processing, because they had processing. They had an exhibition section. That was in 2013 when he asked me, and I was like, yeah, sure. And then a few weeks later, Casey was like, so where is the artwork? And I was like, shit. Now I actually have to learn JavaScript.
What, you mean you actually expect me to do the work?
Yeah, no. I was like pushing it in front of me, and then I was like sitting. There was a comparison Lingo to JavaScript. So if you're programming in Lingo, what would that be in JavaScript? And so I learned the translation basically. And yeah, I was pretty much doing that. I mean, Director was really nice. It had some certain features that you don't have in processing, of course. You have to write everything yourself. And in Director, you had like drag and drop windows, which behind the scenes would basically create an object and stuff like that. And then later on I learned, that's when I actually met my husband at an Open Frameworks week at the Ars Electronica Center. And then I learned C++ with Open Frameworks. And now I'm using both processing and Open Frameworks. Director not anymore because it doesn't run on my machine anymore. It's also like, I mean, in general, I like to abuse systems and see how far you can go. And for instance, like with the 3D printer, I started writing G code via processing to basically sent to the to the 3D printer directly. So I wouldn't build up a 3D model because that's boring, because everyone can do that. So yeah, so I'm doing things that you're normally not supposed to do with a 3D printer, for instance. So normally when you build a 3D model, the print head runs around in circles or builds it up layer per layer. What I did was I moved the print head up and down while it was moving. And I always like to do things that I think are interesting. And then I studied that behavior of the 3D printer for about 10 months. And I felt like in a lab with a white lab coat and stuff. And I would put stuff, little papers on the wall with the exact measurements of the heights and whatever. So, and after 10 months, I was done with it, and I was like, okay, I can continue doing this now, but I would be bored to death because now I know how it works. And I did a similar thing with a plotter that I also hacked in a way that I thought, like, if I just put a pen there and the pen moves sideways, then why would I use a plotter and not just print out something? I just recognized I missed something, an answer for Chris. So the plotter I hacked in a way that the head would also go up and down, and so I could use a brush filled with Indian ink and make completely different artworks than you would normally do with a plotter. So that I like to do things until I know how they work, and then it's getting boring, and then I have to go to the next thing and figure out what's going on. Yeah. So for Chris was asking Rory if we or you are planning to have print alongside with the NFTs.
Oh yes, I did forget that one. Sorry, Chris.
And I thought about it when I started on Super Rare, and then someone said, no, the crypto pros, they don't want prints, they want just crypto. They just want the digital thing. And so I was like, okay. What I did, I sold something on Foundation, and the person who bought it wrote me an email and said, hey, I have a wedding anniversary and I would like to gift that one to my wife as a print. And luckily enough, that was one where I also had a PDF output, so I could send him just a high resolution image. And I was just like, okay, how big should it be? And I do the transformation of the PDF to an actual image that he can send to a printer. It doesn't have my signature, but I don't think the wife cares. So if I can, I will provide a high resolution version, because I think it's just a nice thing to do. In some cases, the digital piece is not really. I don't have a high resolution. So if I create something just in processing and I don't output it as a PDF, then if it's a moving interactive work, for instance, then I can't do a print of it.
So this is Chris jumping in again. And one of the things that you get that is great about NFT art, which you don't get with some other sort of digital art, is actually these, kind of more creative dynamics where you can either have burn dynamics or other utilities, and having, for example, a snapshot date where the people on record at a certain date, maybe a year after the NFT has been minted, those people are the people who get the print. I think it's quite an interesting process, that it creates a bit more excitement and fun and activity, and some of the other things that are being done by other artists, the concept of burning prints for moving prints, or all of these things become possible when you start, on the blockchain. These are possibilities that didn't exist, before, I guess.
Yeah. There's a lot of dynamics going on, like to figure out what's your price. Is your price of your artworks, is the price going up or down, or you as an artist, what's your price? The most fun part is for me that there is this website that basically says how much an artist is worth in terms of if you should collect it or not. and the really fun part is, like in 2003, I think I was on under the top 10,000 worldwide. It was really amazing. Why? Because digital art was new, and so the Centre Pompidou and every big house wanted digital art. So I basically had pieces in all important houses worldwide, and then, but it doesn't actually reflect how much I earned back then. And the fun part is that my curve of being important in the art world goes down, and my bank account goes up. It's so funny. It's I mean, I can finally do what I wanted to do and have my stuff online, digital, and not in a museum stuffed away in the cellar or somewhere, and then and that supposedly makes you in the art world a less wanted artist. This is so strange.
This is, I think, something that the paradigm is going to shift quite dramatically now that this is becoming more normal. In answer to your question, Chris, Sedition tends to focus more on non-physical art, purely virtual, purely digital. That said, we do occasionally do physical pieces. It's not our core business, but due to the nature of the number of artists we work with and the number of clients we work with, we take something like 4 or 5 physical commissions per year, which get performed through to the artist. That's not something we focus on, but it's business that comes to us, and obviously we facilitate it. So that said, I'm not against the idea of using NFTs to attach to physical domain artworks. It's just not what the most natural use for them is. But there are companies already doing this. Our ex-CEO, Robert Norton, has founded Verus Art, which is designed to put blockchain ID and tags and eventually NFTs onto anything. It doesn't have to be a digital asset. It can be any kind of asset that you like. But it's not our core business. For us, we are in the business of providing art in digital format, and NFTs obviously are the ideal technology for digital provenance and tracking. So whilst we will use them occasionally for physicals, it's never going to be our core focus.
That's a great point. I just want to circle back to, this is John Benton. I just want to circle back to Chris's point. And Leah brought it up too. And by the way, Leah, I'm a big fan. I've been following you for a while. And I remember Macromedia Director. Those were the days. So, but one of the interesting things, and this is so refreshing to hear Sedition kind of talking about this, whether it's physical or physical digital, is that we're entering a time where the contracts, the web canvas, artwork is a whole new kind of way of reacting, and artists need to, artists are starting to kind of understand and take advantage of these things, and we're just at the beginning of this. So it's really nice to see a gallery entering this space and embracing not just the digital aspect of it, but the fact that we're just at the beginning, and artists need to really play with this stuff and really kind of, get our hands, to Leah's point, get our hands really dirty and try to break it and try to really experiment this and push it. And as we do this, we see like we are just at the beginning of something that's pretty remarkable. So I'm very happy that to have found this space, and I commend what you guys are doing. Thanks.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
In fact, to put something on top of that, one of the reasons we're so keen to enter this space now isn't just because we've seen the technology evolve to the point where we feel it's suitable. It's also because, without wishing to sound arrogant, I think this space really needs us or someone like us. If you go on to OpenSea at the moment, you look generally, there is a smorgasbord of it's a chaos. It's the Wild West. I mean, in some ways, it's really exciting. There's everything and their dog is there to look at. But at the same time, it's really hard to find something of quality or something you might really want to gravitate towards and add to your collection. Doesn't mean it's not worth the search, but the sheer mass of everything that's there makes it harder to find, I think, the really important pieces. What's really needed in this space, in our view, is a fully curated art contextual platform that allows artists to stand alongside each other in a way that art historical values and norms are kind of foregrounded. I've got no problem with the various different NFTs and all the things you see happening in the crypto space. It's exciting. I've even played around with them myself. But at the same time, it's a far cry from what I would consider to be fine art. I mean, the artists I've always known and admired and loved, and the people whose creative work has grabbed my attention, very few and far between is that happening in the NFT space. There's some great stuff there, but a lot of it is drowned out by a lot of other stuff, which is fine. But it's not what Sedition is for. We're about the art and the artist, and our curated approach will remain front and center as we do this space. We want to impose some more artistic values onto the space. Is basically our end game.
So Sedition will do where my husband and me failed with our NFT platform endlessways.net. We did that because we thought there is really a strong need for curation, and curation is sometimes seen as like what's it called, like pushing some people away, and what's it called, gatekeeping. And it can be gatekeeping, but it doesn't have to be gatekeeping. And you know, if I have learned to see or to look at art really differently in the last 2 years. And if you would have shown me a weird alien with some, you know, shiny eyes and some, I don't know, doomsday feeling to it, I would be like, what's that? That's not art, you know. And now I see things really differently after I have looked at so many NFTs, and I came to enjoy all weird things, you know, that happen there. So, but I had to learn that, and I think you can take really bad artworks, and if you put them together and you say you give them a meaning, then they can become good artworks as well. Because who says what's good and bad art?
Yes.
But you need some curation. You need some. You can have something like things that rotate around the center, and you can have like 10 really bad artworks. But if you if you combine them, and if you give them meaning by combining them, then I think that's really totally worth it.
I completely agree. And in fact, one of the things that we're religious about for Sedition is we try very, very hard. We have to curate or censor the site to some extent. So anything that's really offensive, pornography, things like this, we'll tend to weed out before it gets there. But 99% of everything we put on there, I'm religious about the fact that we do not dictate what is or what is not art. That's for the audience and the art world to decide. There's one of my favorite quotes about art comes from the former Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, I think is the correct pronunciation. But he said something like, art is the truest mirror of society's mind. And that's truer than anything I can think of. You look at contemporary art and everything that's happening in the grand landscape, and it's like the grand narrative. It reflects everything that's happening in society. And this is an important point because you want it to do that. You know, what's happening and what's appearing on all these platforms at the moment is a reflection of the preoccupations of the artists and the people becoming artists in society. So it's important to reflect that. You can't just curate it or censor it or wish it away. Curation is important to give context and a bit of a roadmap, but Sedition is very, very careful to put the curated platform there, but also the open platform. Open platforms are free forum. Anyone with experience and they've trained their eye to know what they like, they can dive in there and explore and find the next diamonds that they want to put into their collection. The curated platform is really just meant as a guide to allow people who are new to find a way through the forest. If you know what you're doing, the more expansive and exciting place to explore is open platform. And that's very much, you know, part of the design. It's intended to give that kind of gamut. We don't want to dictate what an artist has to produce. That's for the market to decide.
If I could interject, just to follow up on with a quick question. I do hope that you don't really just end endless ways. I hope you just hibernate, because I think there's a lot of need and room for something between completely open and what Sedition is doing. So I do hope that, you know, it comes back at some point with some form.
Yeah, we just keep it sleeping right now, and we will see if the law changes. Maybe we have another chance, or we will open source it, or in some other in some way we hope it will survive. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. And just another call to everyone. We've been even sending out some invites for people who want to speak. Do feel free to accept them and join our discussion. I think it's much more fun when it's interactive than when we just read out the pre-submitted questions. So thank you, guys, so much for interacting. But now I do have a quick question for for LIA, and then I'll have a quick question for Rory before we start to wrap this up, as time flies. We've been going over an hour now, actually. So my question to LIA, how long have you been working with Sedition? Have you enjoyed working with Sedition? And should we expect any launches coming up on Sedition of your new artworks anytime soon? And I'm sure Rory is also very interested in hearing the answer to this one.
I'm so interested, my fingers are hovering over the mute button in case we don't like the answer.
So I hate working with Sedition. That's why I'm here. No, this was a joke. Okay, no, I actually, Sedition was the first serious video platform. I think I started working with you in 2013. Is that right?
That is right.
Yeah. So it's really funny because back then there were many platforms popping up as well, like video platforms, and they had all sorts of ideas how it should work, and Sedition was the only one that was serious in a way. Yeah, so I really enjoyed putting my works with you, and yeah, it was the first time actually that it was the pre-NFT experience. I think that I sit at home, I make digital art, I put it online, and I get a bit of money for it. This was like the first thing where I was like, yeah, I would like that forever. Yeah. And yeah, there should be a new release soon. I was a bit occupied with our platform, and now that this is on hold, basically, I am free to work again on my own art, and preparing something. And yeah, I'll hope to have it ready soon.
Fantastic. We'll make a big announcement as soon as that's ready.
Yes, we definitely are looking forward to seeing what you're going to be bringing next onto our site. And next question, I'll just want to throw this one to Rory. It's one of the pre-submitted questions, but I think this one is quite interesting. Hi, and thank you for your time to do this. I'm a newbie to Sedition, but have already seen more success than trying to self-promote online since 1997. As internet speeds get even faster, do you see a time when entire virtual reality galleries will be the norm? And how would Sedition see their future role in this? And yeah, Rory, this goes to you, but then actually I will be also interested to hear what LIA would think. With the internet speeds going faster, would there be a time when there will be entire virtual reality galleries? So, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, whoever that is, and I'm delighted that you've had some success in promoting your work on Sedition. That's very much what we're here for. As internet speed gets faster, do we see a time when entire virtual reality galleries will be the norm? I think there's a kind of two-part answer to this. I think virtual reality galleries will become ever more prolific and ever more established, and I think they will become something of the norm. That said, and I say this with all due caution, given that people are now building the metaverse and there's an enormous amount of work, money, and effort going into these areas. Since I've been involved in art, every new development, every new media tends to come up with the same story. Anyone who's been involved in art, and I'm sure LIA remembers this, going back to the early 90s, you'd have the story that photography was the death of art. It was the death of painting. No more would painting be relevant, or artists' visual interpretations and the way they apply paint to canvas, because photography killed it all. Photography, the instant capture of truth and image and everything. But of course it didn't. And in my experience, this is always the case. It's never, ever the death of physical art or the death of any one medium. It's just a new space opens up in a new sandbox that artists will explore and play with and define the parameters and boundaries for, and then we'll all become very used to it. So I don't think virtual galleries are going to replace necessarily physical galleries. I do think they'll become a lot more numerous and a lot more established, but as an adjunct rather than a replacement to what currently exists.
Yeah, I think that's. I can see that the next generation will live more online than our generation did. Yeah. You know, like I'm always bringing the example of my nephew. He's now 14, and he hooked me onto playing Pokemon. And he's showing me his character in Pokemon and in the game, And he explains to me that the trousers with the 2 stripes he had to buy. So he paid a little bit of his pocket money to actually have a special trousers on the avatar for his Pokemon game. So who can see that? His friends can see that, and they're all like, "Oh, cool," because they knew what that means. I don't know what it means, but so this is the next generation, and I think the borders between what's real and what's online or digital will be more
blurred. Yeah.
Blurred. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that.
And I mean, Lagerfeld makes a jacket in 3D that you can buy, and with that jacket, and you can show up in some games, maybe if the game developers will do that in the future. So there will be a lot of stuff happening, and the thing is, like, if I buy myself some nice clothes, and I mean, I'm not a clothes person, but if I imagine that you want to feel good about, if someone says, "Oh, what nice clothes do you have?" And if someone online says, "Oh, your avatar has a nice outfit," I think you get the same feeling, or you get the same emotion about it. So it's really, for me, I'm online for more than a quarter of a century. So I made friends online that are still my friends after 25 years. And some of them I have met once or twice in my life. But we met online, actually, in hell.com. I met Aurea Harvey, I met Joshua Davies. It's like all that was an online space, and no one was online back then. But we met there, and we had fun, and we had an email. We had an email group, So like that's how we met.
Yeah, I'd say that it's the growth of the metaverse and all of these interactions between the physical and the virtual world are exactly what may give the lie to my belief that physical galleries will carry on as usual. My daughter plays Roblox, which there's a game in that called Adopt Me, which she's obsessed with. I'm constantly paying Robux for her so she can buy new virtual outfits. So it's exactly what you're talking about. She gets dressed up and then flexes her outfit in front of her friends and gets all the same kind of admiration and applause that you would in real life.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's a bizarre thing. I'm probably too old to get my head around it.
Yeah, great points, guys. And indeed, by the looks of it, it seems like crypto and blockchain, it's kind of the latest manifestation of this increasing move online, that there is now money of the internet. There is those items that you could probably own in the internet. So that's interesting stuff happening. I would just like to give one last call to everyone. If anyone wants to ask LIA or anyone wants to ask Rory something, do please jump in, request to speak, and ask your questions, because I will be asking the last question now. And of course, when one wants to wrap up, what's a better thing to ask is to ask about the future. What's going on with you guys in the future? So with question goes to both. LIA, what shall we expect from you in the future going forward? Any interesting plans, anything you want to share? Or of course, business as usual is just also a perfectly good reply. But on to you.
Business as usual, like I would say. It's always hard to say what you're working on, because of course I have some works that I'm working on, but it's not finished. It's not fine-tuned, so I don't want to publish it. Yeah, so stuff. But there are no big plans like building my own NFT platform or something. That's done. So no big plans, but the usual small plans. The small plans may lead to bigger plans or something. Yes.
All right, cool. And Rory, on to you. What to expect from you, Sedition, going forward?
Ultimately, it's certainly going to be business as usual. We are moving forward with our attempt to make Sedition the go-to platform for all artists. The vision here really is that it is for artists. My own background is that of a performing artist. I've always worked very closely with the artists. And it's a shameless piece of business advice as well. The bottom line is we feel that if we make a platform that is perfect for artists and gives them a chance to add subscription revenues, artwork sale revenues, NFT revenues, licensing and commissioning revenues, if they can get all of this from a platform on the site where they can build up their profile, build up an audience, and essentially develop a workable career without having to sign up exclusively to any one person or site, That's the goal. That's what Sedition is for. And if we get that right, then all of the other businesses and the collectors and the art lovers will come to us. And that's always been our philosophy, and it's worked out to be true. We're not quite there yet. There's quite a lot more to go, but we're making our entry into NFTs this year. We are planning to dramatically grow our subscription audience in the coming year. And we want to continue to beef up licensing and our commissions and all the other arms there. The end goal is the same. Artists can come to the site, set up shop. They don't have to sign their life away or be exclusive anywhere. They can try out whatever works for them, keep on to the bits that do, and hopefully build a livable career through our platform. That's what we're here for.
All right. Thank you so much. And now it doesn't look like we have any more people requesting to speak. So I think it's time to wrap up our conversation. So I would like to thank you, LIA, so very much for joining our discussion. I think it was a very fascinating discussion this evening or this afternoon, wherever you might be. Yeah, do you have any closing remarks? Anything you would like to add?
Thanks everyone for showing up here and giving me the idea that I'm super important. No, I'm joking. No, thank you for all your kind works. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to me if I can inspire people. And yeah, thank you.
Not at all. Thank you. It's been a real honor to have you with us, LIA, and thank you very much for spending the time.
Yes, thank you so much again. And please stay tuned with Sedition. So please follow us here. Stay tuned with LIA, as there will be a lot of important announcements coming from both Sedition and LIA. Thanks again to everyone who tuned in this evening, this afternoon. Hope you liked it, and we'll see you online next time. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.